Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with Antdude. Never thought I'd be back here. Anyway, today we're here with ranking every Kirby copy ability. So yeah, it looks like he's doing a tier list of the copy abilities. Again, it's going to be his personal opinion, but I have done most of these. So how about we hop in and see how he's ranking them. So be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's check it out. Hey man.
I never wanted to make this video. I have to apologize. In the last episode, my walls were white, and that really upset a lot of you out there, and understandably so. That was a mistake on my part. It should have never happened. I had just moved, and I didn't have the time to paint. I had to get the video out there. I've made a severe lapse in my judgment. Today marks a very special occasion. What you're watching right now, this very second, is my 200th episode. That's right, I've done this nonsense 199 times before this, and now it's time to celebrate. Some of you may remember all the way back in episode 100 when I was taking a look at the Kirby anime, Right Back At Ya, I made a very distinct promise that I would continue that saga in the near future.
But hey, I'll be back to take a look at more of them before you know it.
So that was a bit of a lie. I got grander ideas for that concept, so hopefully, you can rest assured before episode 300 comes around, I'll follow through with that promise. I've fingers crossed on that one, but hey, you're all still here. Let's talk about Kirby anyway.
Sure.
Copy abilities, the cornerstone mechanic of the Kirby franchise, right alongside excellent music and eldritch horror final bosses. Throughout the history of the Pink Puffball, one of the most exciting things with each and every installment is just what crazy new moves Kirby's gonna get access to, and how adorable the corresponding head is gonna be. Oh my god, he looks like Link. Early on in the series, we went from really simple one-use abilities to full-blown movesets with Superstar and beyond, and then when we get to Forgotten Land, we have ability upgrades. That changed the whole game right there. And while many of the abilities from the traditional games do show up in the spin-offs, we got some spin-off exclusive abilities too. A trend that I am very okay with. There's a lot going on here. From the debut of abilities in Kirby's Adventure all the way to the Switch remaster, Return to Dreamland Deluxe, we have a whopping 67 abilities to rank here. And boy, I can't wait to see what the 69th will be. That's going to be an important moment in history. Also for this list, we're going to be avoiding the likes of the Animal Friends and the Robobot Armor. There's the game-specific gimmicks like the Crystal Shard ability combos, the Super Suck from Triple Deluxe, and the Ravel abilities from Extra Epic Yarn. And there's going to be no final boss items here either, so apologies to the Love Stick fans out there. We're not going to be ranking the Love Stick.
Fair enough.
Not today, at least. If Kirby swallows it and he turns into a thing, it's valid for this list, and that's what we're going to be ranking.
Fair enough.
Sounded a bit weird to say that whole thing out loud, but you know what I'm talking about. On to the list.
Let's go. First up, Light. Yeah, again, single use.
Light really is the dumbest. The series is no stranger to abilities that only show up in a single game, but man, Adventure has a couple, like, literally only 2 rooms that are dark, oh no, and this ghost hides the key to making things brighter. It changes nothing else, it reveals a door that you couldn't see before, but you could still enter it while the room is dark, so...
What's the point?
And then this ghost was to never be seen again, rightfully deserved. Kirby performs much better as an actual light bulb anyway. It's easy to mock copy, but it's actually got some forgotten context. You see, in Superstar, since it could be played in co-op for the first time in the series, it's really meant for player 2, the helper character, to have a more direct choice with what ability they want access to, since this was way before co-op Kirby games allowing for multiplayer player Kirbys, and that's kinda cool. That being said, this is one of the most redundant abilities of all time. Not even the cool laser beam thing you can do saves it. Very, very bad. Similar to Light, Mini is used to solve some contextual environmental puzzles in Amazing Mirror, and to its benefit, there are a lot more uses of it compared to Light. But all it does is make you small and you can't perform any attacks. It's terrible. You can't even bring it with you outside of the room that you get it in. Were the Amazing Mirror devs so incapable of puzzle design that they just had to put a ton of tiny corridors all over the place to justify 5 pixels of Kirby? It's really lame. Okay, so I'll give Metal some credit now. It is the first ability on this list to have more than one function. There's a ground pound, and you can roll down hills as a ball.
But
So we
again,
got two.
Rock could
We
do
have
that
we have
too.
two functions with this one. The idea of a metallic Kirby does have some potential, but ultimately it ends up being incredibly painful to use. You walk so slow, you fly so slow. You are invincible while you're metallic, and you can destroy basically anything in your path just by walking through them, so I guess that's kind of cool. But with all of the other downsides this ability brings, no thanks, I'll take my chances. Dude, even the flavor text is like, it's not perfect, okay? Well, if that ain't the understatement of the decade. Ball's low placement on this list isn't so much to do with its utility. You strip away Kirby's hands and feet, and he's suddenly able to go full blast, attacking everything in his path with his whole self at super fast speed, bouncing off the walls as you go. It could be kind of fun. It's low on this list because it's one of the only abilities that I genuinely dread the idea of ever trying to operate. Ball Kirby is a great idea for the spin-offs. Canvas Curse, Block Ball, Dream Buffet prove that Kirby just rolling around is fun. But in the context of a standard platformer where the level design isn't really built with the frantic nature of the ability in mind, yeah, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I guess you're not supposed to go full speed all the time, and instead you precisely time your bounces, but then you don't even get to enjoy the fun of the pure chaos, and it's even worse. And the nominee for the ability that most people forget even exists, Paint. This is one of those classic screen nuke attacks. A bunch of flashy effects pop up on the screen, damage is done, bada bing bada boom, you move on. The power of Paint compels you. The issue though is that there are only two ways to get this ability, and that's from specific moves from a few bosses in Superstar in situations where you would likely not even think that this little paintball that the enemy throws off would give you anything special. Granted, it's not like it would be much higher on the list if there were more ways to get this ability. The series is filled with much more powerful feeling screen nukes anyway. Paint is just a fun little piece of trivia for Kirby Superstar and nothing more.
Yeah. Oh, festival.
That's it. That's all Festival is. It's a little more common to find than Paint, so that's nice, but quite frankly, it is only a step higher on the list because everybody dances now.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of cute. Paint also gets a pass
the whole
because it's an
song.
older ability, so they were still kind of
sure.
figuring things out, I guess, but by the time Star Allies released, we already had way better screen nukes, like way better than this, so the comparison there doesn't really do Festival any favors. I'm upset this one is so low on the list. Ghost Kirby is such a cool idea. Suddenly you can take control of any enemy that you come in contact with. It sounds so cool on paper, but in execution,
Not so much.
there are zero instances where it's more beneficial to become an enemy and use their weapons rather than just taking their ability outright. And for the enemies that lack abilities, well, now you can just walk into other enemies. Sick. The implementation of Ghost is so half-hearted, and the real kicker here is that it's an unlockable for completing one of Squeak Squad's core collectibles, the Ghost Medal. So this is a reward. Once you do that, this Ghost guy randomly replaces one of the mini-bosses, and that's it. That's what you work towards. If you're working for an unlockable ability, it should at the very least make you feel powerful,
That's it, yeah.
and Ghost does the opposite. Oh, thank God, an ability where you finally get to do something. Okay, so with throw, you grab things, right, and then you can throw them.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah,
mean,
well, that's
you can actually aim things in different directions instead of just straight ahead, so that's kind of nice, and they also give you a new standing animation in Squeak Squad. Oh boy, what a badass. You can gain the ability to sometimes add elemental attributes to a thrown enemy, but that really doesn't save it for me. Since there are a bunch of other abilities that basically incorporate a throw as part of their moveset, there is no surprise that this one is likely gonna stay in the past. Laser is definitely limited in that it mainly shoots a laser straight forward and that's it, but boy howdy, is it ever convenient that the levels right after getting the laser have so many gosh darn 45-degree angles to bounce those lasers off of. That's the stuff. Now, if you're actually looking to do damage with this thing, then don't get your hopes up. It's not good. Squeak Squad did add a charge option, and that kinda helps, but it's rarely ever something that I would choose as my primary form of attack. I just think bouncing it off of walls is kinda neat, cause I'm simple-minded. Yes, this just broke free of the bottom 10. Hear me out. Sleep's whole gimmick is being useless, so in that essence, it succeeds. Kirby pulls out a cute little sleep cap, he takes a nap right then and there. It's adorable, right? It's adorable.
Yeah,
The only thing you can do is wake Kirby up faster. It would soon be able to slowly regenerate some health, that's nice. And in Forgotten Land, you can upgrade it so Kirby will pull out an entire bed instead. That's incredible. I just love that, in terms of challenge, it's often an ability orb that you actively have to avoid. I think that having an ability like that really balances out the entire ability pool. And also, in Battle Royale, they gave Sleep an actual combat moveset. You beat the crap out of opponents with a pillow, you slap a hat onto your opponent's head and force them to go to sleep, make them go night-night. It's amazing. It's still low on the list because, I mean, come on, you just go to sleep, but the people who say it's pointless, they're lying to you. I mean, like, I kinda get Balloon's inclusion. You know, Canvas Curse isn't a platformer where you have direct control over Kirby, so let's make an ability that can assist with some of the more vertical sections of the game. But it's bad though. It has some utility, but in general, it's just a massive hassle to use in like every situation. On its final inflation, it does do a little explosion of damage, and that's kind of helpful, but quite frankly, call it a miracle if you make it that far in the first place. With a backdrop, you grab the guy, and then you slam him. That's it. It's a very straightforward ability, and it does feel kinda powerful to pull off, but in grander situations, when you're in a proper battle, it's never gonna be the ideal choice to go for. This is, like Throw, another instance of an ability that's not necessarily terrible, but as the series would go on, it would go away in favor of being combined with a different ability to make a more complete package. Much like Freeze Kirby gets some points alone for rocking the Ice Climber outfit. Let's get that right out of the way. The problem with Freeze isn't so much what it is, since it provides a perfectly functional close-range attack that turns enemies into ice blocks that you can then shoot away. It's nice. It's that, like Backdrop, it is now irrelevant, as it is the less good of the ice abilities, and it would become that later on. It's no surprise that ice would take the center stage going forward. It's actually a very similar story to... Man, I almost forgot burning was even a thing. I just assumed it was always fire, but nope. With this one, you become a fireball and shoot forward. That's the whole ability. It's certainly impactful, and it did show up in a lot more games than Freeze, being a prominent ability in Dreamland 2, 3, and 64, but yes, this would eventually get absorbed into Fire going forward, so the same story with these past three abilities, Backdrop, Freeze, and Burning. Not bad, but they all stay pretty low because who cares anymore? They're outdated. So Squeak Squad introduced this wild new gimmick where you're able to mix and rumble up different bubbles containing items and abilities within Kirby's stomach. Mechanically, cool. Practically, oh no, his poor tum-tum. So here we have the bubble ability, acting sort of like the copy ability of earlier, being able to transform enemies into a star obstacle or an ability outright that you're able to store in your stomach for later. Not immediately transforming into the ability that you capture makes this way better than copy, but also the bubble beam does some actual damage, so that's a genuine attack. Get some bonus points for not being trash, but ultimately it's just not as effective as like nearly every other ability in the game. A lot of copy abilities showed up in a modified way in Kirby's Dream Buffet, but in this wild multiplayer game, we got a brand new ability, Jelly. Probably easy to dismiss given how different this game is compared to the rest, and it likely won't be making a jump to a traditional Kirby adventure anytime soon, but just based on its effectiveness within the context of Dream Buffet, it's great. In a game all about quickly navigating through a ton of obstacles to outrace your opponents, getting the chance to completely bypass everything for a few seconds is a game changer. Plus, it's pretty cute. You're gonna be hearing me say this a lot more throughout this episode.
Yeah.
Hey, now you can become a missile and just blow through the competition. As far as traditional Kirby goes, this only shows up in Amazing Mirror, where it really made the most sense. That game often had a lot more open-ended level design, so being able to just roam around and explode on impact really works in that context, and it's absolutely terrible when you're thrown into tighter corridors. But I do gotta shout out to Canvas Curse though, because angling the missile with the rainbow line that you draw, it's pretty satisfying. The best part of Stone Kirby is definitely not its utility. You turn into a big rock, you crash into the ground, and you usually just let gravity do the rest. Later on, in Return to Dreamland, they would give you a Stone Uppercut move, which does give the ability a lot more points, but come on now. We all love Stone for all of the references that you can become. Every time I get Stone, every single time, I gotta spend a couple minutes just spamming the move, seeing what character will show up next. The fact that Grill and Brobo from Superstar Stacker and Block Ball show up, I mean, come on now, that's incredible. Otherwise, it is useful, just not one that I really enjoy using.
Yeah, fair.
Kirby has died and become an angel. Pour one out for the good old Puyo. As Cupid Kirby, you can fly around kinda slowly and shoot one or a couple of arrows.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not bad. In the games it shows up in, it is useful, but in the grand scheme of things, its movement options are really limited and outclassed by a similar bow and arrow ability that we'll see later on. The halo and little wing aesthetic is really cute, but not one that I'm really jumping to whenever it shows up.
No wonder it didn't really
Dude,
show up
High
again.
Jump had one of the best glow-ups in the entire franchise. On its debut, it would let you jump really high. Woohoo! Certainly made for a great boss fight against Kracko, but the amount of times that you would genuinely want High Jump are slim to none. However, when it returned in Return to Dreamland, oh man, you suddenly got much better movement in the air, you can charge up your jumps now, you can cancel your jump into a super fast dive, it feels so much better to use. And the superhero cape on top of all of that really adds a lot to it, let's be honest.
Kirby.
When Kirby jumped into the third dimension, we needed some brand new abilities that would work well with the new range of movement, and Drill allowing you to, well, drill underground to get secrets from these little dirt piles and do some damage along the way. It made perfect sense. Combat-wise, it is fairly unwieldy to use. Its main attack only works if you do a proper loop around an enemy while underground, and that's not the most effective option in your arsenal. You do have a nice little thing where you can kind of dive into the ground with your drill, and that does good damage, but once again, you do like an angled shot, not the most effective move all things considered. Navigation though, that's definitely the ability's strong suit, and luckily the game knows that. Drill is a blast to use when you have a lot of stuff that you gotta do quickly by going above and below ground at a fast pace. That's the best part. But when it comes to underground based abilities, I gotta give a lot more credit to...
Animal?
Dude, come on.
There it is.
Look at him. Animal Kirby is just, it's the cutest thing. When Kirby puts on this adorable little suit, not only is he able to dig underground, sometimes in glorious fashion, he also has an effective close combat attack with the Claw Swipe. It's a generally fairly straightforward ability to use, and since it only showed up in Squeak Squad, there is yet to be an opportunity to build upon Animal to reach a fuller potential, but I mean, come on, look at him! I almost want to put him higher because he's so damn adorable. Kirby can already fly, so you would think that Wing Kirby would be redundant, but the amount of movement options that you're afforded easily make this a really fun ability to play around with. Your wing flaps do damage, you can shoot feathers for short range attacks, you can dive bomb into the ground, all at a really fast pace too. This ability is crazy to use if you're really good at it. If you learn and properly utilize the wing ability, you can just blast through stages, leaving nothing but feathers in your wake. The more abilities that add to Kirby's in-air mobility, the better in my opinion. Oh hey, look at that. Think Wing Kirby, right? But a lot more mechanical. Here we have Jet Kirby. On top of also being able to infinitely fly and deal out decent damage at a close range, you also gain the ability to charge your thrusters for more long-range attacks, just nudging this one out a little bit above Wing, but both are very fun. Also, this has no bearing on Jet's placement on this list, but a special shout out to the Robobot form of Jet, some of the best segments in modern Kirby history. Wheel Kirby is absolutely iconic, there is no doubt about that. You become a wheel.
Yeehaw.
Of course it's iconic. Being able to rush through anything in your path, practically invincible to boot, is obviously super powerful. I'm a big fan of the few speedrun segments where you have to outrun a fuse or whatever the game throws at you by perfectly timing your jumps and your turns. It's so cool, and who doesn't love an awesome backwards hat? It's a very difficult ability to handle for boss fights, but in general, this is a great reliable ability, only this low on the list, as I much prefer abilities where you actually do things, though the wheelie rider option that this ability provides you is very, very sick. Suplex is a fantastic adaptation of the close combat abilities that were earlier on in this list, throw and backdrop. It's not just a matter of feeling like you're on an absolute killing spree with all of these crazy flips and punches that you pull off. Man, by the time you get to them, they're already dead, and they're just your plaything. It's so cool. One problem though, when it came back in Star Allies, they removed the sick tan that used to give you in Superstar. That's unfortunate, but hey, still a great close combat ability. Let me get a yeehaw in the chat. It's time to cowboy up with some Whip Kirby. This is a great long-range ability where its strong suit comes from its grappling capabilities. Not only can you lash enemies endlessly, but you're also able to grab a hold of items from afar, and more importantly, enemies from afar that you can then slam into the ground. Oh man. Throw in a really cool overhead move with some great range. Whip is definitely awesome for many situations. It's just, compared to the rest of the abilities in the game, it's one that I never really gravitate to over others, since most of the moves that you perform are at a standstill, and I don't know, I just prefer to be a little faster. That's a personal thing. Man, similar to High Jump, the glow up from Magic really shouldn't be understated. In Amazing Mirror, it was whatever. Another form of the classic screen nuke, but you pull something random out of your hat and then you move on with your day. This would be a whole lot lower on this list if that was it. However, when it reappeared in Squeak Squad, oh my god, they gave it an actual moveset. And a giant hat, throwing out cards, you got a giant clown head, friggin' doves, and you can still pull tricks out of your hat? This is a god tier ability, honestly. This became such a good option in this game, only brought down by how bad its debut was. But you know what? Shoutouts to the little Kirby that lives inside the hat. I love him. Cutter has the distinct honor of being one of the few abilities that has appeared in every single traditional Kirby game, while also always being good. Not great, but good. When it was purely a projectile that you would throw a boomerang blade out and wait for it to come back, it was fine. Never the optimal choice, but I did dig Kirby throwing his entire face off in 64. Once they revamped this ability and gave it a bunch of brand new close combat moves, getting to slash the blade around like crazy, including essentially his recovery move from Smash, it became so much better. But still, it doesn't really do anything better than the other options that are available. Though the addition of throwing buzzsaws in Forgotten Land definitely makes it a little bit more compelling.
Don't forget that.
Big apologies to all of you arachnophobes out there, but it's time for Spider Kirby. As expected, everything is about shooting webs. You place a big web in the background to jump from, you encapsulate enemies in webs to trap them and slowly starve them for air, and then they die, and even kick or slam them when they're in their webs to add some insult to injury. Movement-wise, it's great. Attack variety, really good. But in terms of actually using it in combat, the moves are pretty weak. The only major downside, to be fair, but enough for it to not be higher up on the list for me. Also, if you hate spiders, this is probably at the bottom of your list.
Yeah,
and that's totally valid. I always really enjoyed Bell Kirby based on it just being all about blasting your enemy's eardrums. That's a great premise. Slamming down with these giant bells is simply really effective in close combat scenarios, and it's really fun being able to pull out some long-range moves as well with these massive sound waves or this big sound barrier move. It's surprisingly versatile. Its only downside is that outside of the Twin Tinker attack that you can pull off while running, moves come out relatively slowly, so for a boss rush, great call. In most other instances though, you've got better choices, but hey, the bell is cute, and like I said before, I am really biased with the cute hats.
Bellboy Kirby.
The fact that cleaning isn't at the bottom of this list is a damn miracle. Its debut in Dreamland 3 was terrible. Stand still, swipe your broom, that's it. It was so bad. The versatility in that game came from combining it with your animal friends, but even then, it was a mediocre showing. So, color me incredibly surprised when it returned in Star Allies, and it became amazing. Not only do you move while sweeping now, adding great mobility to the base moveset, but the entire moveset brings in the animal friends from Dreamland 3, replicating what their moves were from that game, essentially resulting in massive fan service for that one game in particular. Also, the bandana allowing Kirby to cosplay as a mother who is tired that you never clean your damn room really seals the deal. It's moves like cleaning and magic that really give me hope for the return of other abilities like animal and metal to return in spectacular fashion, because they've shown they can do some great things with some once terrible moves. Kinda like this one. I've made it no secret that I was not really a big fan of Star Allies, but credit where it's due, it took the stupid paint ability and made something awesome with Artist. It may only be halfway down the list, but it's still a great ability to use. Being able to swing your paintbrush around like a sword is just as good of an attack as any other close range one, but it's all about the unique artist quirks, like painting something to summon it in real life, including a fat Kirby. Who can ever say no to fat Kirby? And also being able to carve a stone statue to swing that around too for massive damage. Those two alone really make this ability shine. And the stone carving in particular, it is so damn powerful. It's an excellent move for the game's boss rush, and even against other players in Fighters 2. Star Allies got a lot of things wrong, but I will never disrespect the developer's passion to go back to paint and cleaning and really give those abilities some life.
True.
You did it, you're halfway through. Thank you so much for watching. We still got like 30 plus more to go. This is your time to get up, to stretch a little bit, refill your water, get some more snacks. We still got quite a ways to go, but without further ado, let's get into it. It may just be an umbrella, but Parasol has a surprising amount of versatility. In more recent games, you have a pretty decent amount of attack options, with swinging and twirling it like a sword. You're also able to grab enemies and make them suffer as well. Love that. The constant suffering for any ability. Man, they're gonna regret being in my path. And as far back as the earlier games where Parasol first debuted, it was satisfying just being able to properly utilize its defensive attribute to deflect dangerous objects that are falling from above. This is one of the most unassuming abilities in the franchise, and while it's never outstanding, it's always way better than you would expect it to be. Alright, listen, I know
the
we put
animation?
Festival
Just
really
wrong.
low, so you probably expected all of the screen nuke moves to be low on the list as well, but, I mean, come on now. Cook Kirby puts on a chef's hat and boils his enemies to death in a delicious stew that then becomes tasty food items. It may only do one thing, but damn it if it doesn't do it well. At this place on the list, one might even say it's medium well. Sorry about that. It kind of feels like they were desperately trying to make Needle a not bad ability. Initially, you would stop all progression and cause damage to anything that walks into you, even if they're on the walls or the ceiling. How terrifying. Ooh, but hey, okay. In return, let's give it a spin dash. Okay, you're speaking my language. You can shoot the needles out of it too? Okay, we're getting better. And then, the only reason it's this high on the list is in Forgotten Land. Dude, it's over. Now you essentially become a massive Katamari, able to constantly roll around, latching enemies onto yourself as you go, and it's awesome. And when you upgrade the ability, you add projectiles into the fray. You become unstoppable. One of the designs is also the reference to the Kirby 64 needle ability, where you just have a bunch of stuff like a pencil coming out of you. Love that. Needle became an ability that was a constant joy to use. If Forgotten Land didn't exist, Needle would be much, much lower.
Fair enough.
A telekinetic-based Kirby ability really sounds like it would be the coolest thing in the world, and that is where ESP comes in. No doubt inspired by Ness's moveset in Smash Brothers, once Kirby dons this sick sideways hat, not backwards hat, sideways still cool though, he can perform this little instant transmission teleportation, you can summon a big ball of energy that explodes on command, and that's it, sadly. For what you have access to, it is a good ability, and its one attack is pretty strong, but it really is just one attack. There's a great counter attack also, but for a modern ability, you're provided a surprisingly limited amount of options. So it's effective, but generally pretty uninteresting, unfortunately. God, what a chaotic ability Circus turned out to be. Who would have thunk it? The options you have available to you with this moveset are wild. Pulling out all of the stops from flaming bowling pins to trampolines to balloon animals, it's crazy, man. Circus Kirby was always a blast to use, even if it's a little bit too chaotic for its own good. Like, this isn't an ability that you would choose if you're looking to really hone your craft for your next speedrun, or deal the most amount of damage per second for a boss fight. But in terms of pure fun factor, this is undoubtedly one of the best. The Circus Tent Hat has a mustache for crying out loud. I love him. But you want to talk about chaos, baby, Bomb Kirby, this is where it's at. Being able to summon bombs out of thin air and then just immediately be throwing them all, just non-stop with no cooldown in between, I love it so much. For long range, you're covered, easily. This is always great against bosses if you want to attack from a distance. But close range? Well, if you time it right, you can pin a bomb onto an enemy's head and watch their life flash before their eyes before they explode. Kirby is an absolute monster, and I am here for it, and the corny blue hat, I love it so much. This little thing, this is the symbol of disaster. So, this is kind of cheating. At the time of this video, Return to Dreamland Deluxe isn't out yet, but I mean, come on, look at this. This is sick. Mecha Kirby is the first ability to ever be introduced in a remaster. They added nothing to Nightmare in Dreamland and Superstar Ultra. This is a historic moment right here. You got a powerful looking dash attack similar to the Tinker Melody ability from Bell, and also a chargeable laser. Looks like that'll do a lot of damage. I really don't need to play the game to know that this will be a lot of fun to use. Kirby's mechanical now, and he's ready to kill. If this ability turns out it sucks and it's in the low 60s after this,
We'll see.
I apologize. Archer is not only a better version of Cupid, but it's just a flat-out great ability to use. Not only do you maintain your standard speed since you don't have wings to worry about and you're not flying anymore, but the versatility with your shots make this a constantly powerful ability to wield. You can angle your shots, attack with your bow, you shoot multiple arrows at once while you're in midair. It's all so satisfying, and there's even an exclusive guard with this ability. While most times you just sit there and deflect some damage, now you put up some camouflage to duck behind. Cupid is cute, I'll give it that, but Archer is so much better. Kirby is clearly no stranger to elemental abilities, so it's kind of surprising that it took so long for water to show up. But man, when it did, it showed up in style. It is such a great time. Not only are its moves really useful in battle, but it's also the perfect amount of flashy. I love being able to summon a deadly rainbow all around Kirby. That's so dangerous. Taste the rainbow. But also, mobility-wise, being able to surf over water, create tidal waves at the push of a button, and create an endless fountain under you that does a bunch of good damage. This is one of the best multifunctional abilities in the franchise, and it is a constant pleasure. But if we're to be a little controversial here, maybe this is a slightly less popular opinion, but Poison, I think, perfected the water concept. Some of the moves basically overlap between the two, but there's a lot more variety in terms of attack options with Poison, as some of the poison will linger to create constant damage. The Poison Cloud is used for a couple of nifty wind-based puzzles later on in the adventure, and there is a sick close combat counter, which honestly really doesn't fit the poison idea a whole lot, but it's still really cool. And one of the moves is, it's called the Tilted Toxic Tower, and Tilted Tower is one of the locations in Fortnite. I had to mention it, regrettably. Poison's good though. You could make the argument that any of the screen nukes don't deserve to be this high on the list, but I mean, come on. Crash Kirby puts on a Pope hat and then explodes, killing everything in sight. It has to be this high on the list. It doesn't need to be anything else. When you get Crash, you know that shit is about to get very real, very fast. Later on in the series, when you gained the ability to charge it, that made things even better. And then hey, in Forgotten Land, the final upgrade allows you to stop time. This is such a powerful move. You only get to use it like once, but for that one time, it's awesome. But okay, yeah, sorry, not sorry. Mike is still the best screen nuke there is. I don't really think there's a debate on that one. For one, you can use it 3 times, so that automatically makes it better. A single mic usage may not do as much damage as a single Crash usage, but yelling into a microphone in 3 different ways, the final one being a big ol' Testo, is always one of the best parts of any Kirby game that it's in. And also, similar to Jet, this has no bearing on the ranking, but I gotta give a special shout out to the Robobot form of this ability because it really fleshes out what a sound-based ability is capable of. And Robobot is a very good game. Here we go, finally the ability that Burning got thrown into. Fire was introduced in the same game as Burning, but you were only able to spit fire in Adventure. But starting with Superstar, when the merger happened, we also got a bunch of new movement options into the mix. Getting to be in control of fire in so many different ways, it became a recipe for success whenever you use it. And funnily enough, the Fireball part that was Burning before is my favorite part of Fire, but no longer being restricted to that one move really makes this great to use all around. Hell, back in Superstar, you can even set yourself on fire. You gotta respect the dedication to your craft. Kirby with a gun, baby! What sounded like a meme for the longest time finally became a reality in Forgotten Land, and what a debut it had. Ranger Kirby is so much fun to use, being able to aim at anything on screen, charge up a shot for extra damage, and dude, the dodge where Kirby immediately will unload on the enemy that you just dodged from, this is such a killer moveset. There are no new movement options afforded to you, and in all honesty, it's not even all that flashy.
It's a Ranger.
Well, until you upgrade to the Space Ranger at least, that is supremely flashing, but not every good ability needs to be fancy. Kirby now carries that thing on him at all times, and I, for one, would be very afraid if this were to approach me. Man, and now Kirby can become a ninja? Of course it was gonna be good. Now we have Ninja Kirby out here rocking a katana, he can throw kunai, you can create a smoke screen, cling onto walls and wall jump, do a sick drop kick, and even create a cherry blossom blast out of nowhere? Dude, there's like no way you can play as Ninja Kirby and not feel super cool. That's its main job description. In Superstar, it would even turn you purple. That's just an awesome look. This is one of the few abilities out there where it feels like you can go on a constant tear against enemies with a barrage of unique moves and it never once gets old. Plus, again, it kind of goes without stating, but ninjas are always awesome. When you think—
I mean, he ain't wrong. Ninjas are always cool. It's pretty much a part of the deal. Just have fun with them. I know I haven't paused out, but come on, it's just fun nostalgizing about these pop-up, or at least these copy abilities. Hell yeah, so let's keep going.
Think of iconic Kirby abilities, Sword may be the first thing that comes to mind. It is the definition of iconic. It's the Link hat, right? It's totally because of the Link hat. It's not all about just slashing your sword to attack in front of you. You get a sick spinning attack, an upward slash, a downward spike. The in-air sword spin is always reliable. Every move flows into each other beautifully. There is never a situation where Sword Kirby doesn't work. Plus, it always leads to the awesome Meta Knight encounters, and those sword-on-sword battles will always be some of the franchise's best. But yeah, I'm sorry, maybe this is another controversial opinion, but Spear still wins in the ability featuring pointy thing contest. It's potentially an unpopular opinion, but quite frankly, just on the basis of Spear having a longer range than Sword makes it the better of the two in my opinion. And that's not even factoring in the cooler downward spike, being able to toss multiple spears at once, and dude, the Spear Copter, are you kidding me? Of course, like objectively that's cooler. Objectively, Sword is better in a more general sense, but maybe it's because Spear is newer and I just haven't gotten sick of it yet. Between the two, I'm gonna go with Spear every time. I'm
More
sorry.
Sword.
However,
the upgrades.
man, leave it to Star Allies of all Kirby games to take the Spear concept and just make it better with staff.
This was a
and
fun
like,
one,
and not
yeah.
get enough recognition for it. The range is even longer. You have a pole jump now. Stabbing like crazy from midair is great. This is the best
Also, the
form
solo
this ability
combo
style
frames,
has
you gotta
seen yet.
give 'em
Just
credit
the
for that,
entire notion of having a long pointy thing, whether it be ended with a sharp object or just a big old ball, it is incredibly
Launch.
fun to use no matter how you spin it. But it is also kind of neat that this is also one big Goku reference. Not the Dragon Ball one, the Journey to the West one. I really hope staff returns in a future Kirby game. Sword, once again, definitely iconic, God bless it, but staff takes the cake. Similar to Spider, I get
Beetle.
it, I hate Beetles as much as the next guy, but I will be damned if Beetle Kirby isn't one of the most fun abilities to use.
really does look
Having a
kinda fun,
close
too.
combat move that has a solid upward attack isn't new at this point, and you can even swing your horn around rapidly like a sword. But damn it, you can stab your enemies with the hook and seismic
Loop
slam them
and
into the
bam.
ground. That is one of the most badass moves ever conceived for this franchise, and maybe ever. And you can
Maybe
even
that's why
fly
they made
around
this-
with your little beetle wings. It's adorable. You know what? They may have made the entire beetle species just for this ability, and I'll allow it. I really like this. I've always been a fan of electric
Spark.
powers in whatever game includes them, so
Dang.
while I assume I like Spark Kirby more than most,
Again, you could say
I
it's
do admit
freeze,
that's
but-
because I have a major bias. Something about simply
Interesting.
encapsulating yourself in this big ball of electricity to zap all of your enemies to the extreme, I love it. But really, this became a true favorite of mine once you were able to shoot sparks above and below you with ease, as well as charge up your electric beam. It becomes so powerful. I'm sure a lot of people hate the fact that you charge up by mashing the D-pad or, God forbid, shake the Wii remote in return, but that's because that's how you conduct static electricity, man.
True,
That
just,
constant friction, come on now. Kirby is based in realism. But arguably, this one shouldn't even have its own
Plasma?
unique spot on the list because it is very similar. Plasma Kirby is like maybe
pretty
a
much
little bit
Spark
better than
before it
Spark
took
Kirby.
over.
Quite frankly, I expected Plasma to disappear over time as Spark took over a lot of the same moves, and that's just what the modern games do. A very similar fate to Burning and Freeze. But in Star Allies,
Plasma.
nope. Plasma returned for some reason instead of Spark. It's kind of just green Spark in that game, and most of the moves are missing, but we do have this cool dash move that's like Pikachu's Smash Recovery, and I like that a lot, so yeah. Still fun, but really a negligible difference between these last two, to be honest.
True.
Utility-wise, I always felt like
Hammer
Hammer Kirby was very similar to Sword, but just a lot more powerful. And yeah, that's all it needed to be this high on the list. The Hammer Uppercut alone is enough to justify this placement. It absolutely decimates anything it comes into contact with. You bring this into the boss arena and that's it. It's over. You won. And considering how rare this ability was, it always felt special when you got your hands on it, which really adds to its appeal. No other ability, in my opinion, matches
True.
Hammer in terms of
When
sheer
you got
power,
it, you
and I
kept
will
it
always
with
love
you
it as a result.
all the time.
Making a copy ability out of Kirby's
Smash
Smash Bros. Moveset is such an obvious decision that I'm amazed it hasn't shown up in more games. Much like its inspiration, this is just an amalgamation of already existing moves, like the Final Cutter and the Hammer Swing, combined with some new close combat moves like the Jab and the In-Air Spin. It's just the Smash moveset. You don't get access to it a whole bunch, but whenever you do, it is so much fun. And considering it brought Master Hand as a boss in a traditional Kirby game, like, listen here, Sakurai has never made it shy that he lets his biases shine with the Kirby franchise, and I'm
at
okay
you,
with
World
that,
Light.
because if it gives us awesome stuff like this, I am a-okay with that. This needs to appear in more games. On their debut, I'll be honest, I much
Ice.
preferred Freeze Kirby to Ice Kirby, but similar to Fire, once their moves merged and we got a ton of new attack options, including this in-air ice spin that you can pull off and then go right back to ice skating along, this move skyrocketed for me. You got the range with the ice blowing, you can continue to freeze enemies and shove them into the distance without losing much, if any, momentum, and once again, ice skating the whole time? You see
Even
this pink
water
puff
on the-
skating towards
you know,
you can
forgotten
run,
it. Don't forget
but you
that.
won't make it very far. Opinions on Leaf tend to be all over the place, so I have no doubt that I like this way more than others, but to put it simply, I believe that Leaf is the best elemental styled ability this series has ever seen. You can shoot the leaves like they're the kunai from the ninja ability, but they spin around you now. You get this leaf uppercut like Hammer, but it's not as powerful, it just looks kind of nice. You have this little leaf spin like Tornado. It's a combination of a bunch of different moves with just enough different to make it one of the most versatile attack options in the games that it shows up in.
Sounds right.
Also, when you dodge, you like jump into a little leaf pile, and that's adorable. I would do the same thing. Far and away, the best melee ability the traditional Kirby games has ever seen, Fighter. It's one thing to simply have a handful of really cool looking moves, but everything you can pull off with this one, in this dozen-plus moveset, feels incredibly powerful, and it is so easy to chain moves together, putting you on a constant path of destruction. Similar to Ninja in that regard, but I mean, look at that headband. There's even a Hadouken-like move that you can pull off, either by a basic button charge if you want to be lame, I guess, or you could do the command input like an actual Hadouken. Suplex, throw, and backdrop all walked so Fighter can run full speed and kill everything in sight. But, damn it, I'm telling you, man, you put Wrestler Kirby in the next mainline game, we're looking at an absolute game changer here. Currently, it's exclusive only to Fighters 2, but man, it really is the entire close combat idea perfected. You have all of the moves that chain together like in Fighter, but there's a whole lot more grappling involved, much like suplex and backdrop. You can flip your opponent into the air like crazy, give them these wild suplexes, grab them from midair and slam them down. He's got a luchador mask on. It's probably nonsensical to put such a relatively niche ability so high on this list, but I'm telling you, it doesn't really help that not many people played Fighters 2, but I'm telling you, I gotta go with my heart on this one. If you smell what the pink puff is cooking. Tornado can take a bit of time to get used to. Timing your button holds to move higher in the air, it can be a little tough sometimes to get that right. But man, you really do just become an invincible whirlwind of destruction that's hard to compete with once you figure it out. And when it was all about just spinning from left to right, it was really good, but then they added these angled tornado shots that you can do at will in returns, and then in Forgotten Land, in a 3D space, it's even more destructive. It's insane. No matter what game it's in, it is arguably one of the most overpowered abilities in the entire series. Only this low on the list, only because I think the higher up ones are a little bit more fun to use.
Honestly, never really
And just like
Tornado.
that, we're finally at the top
tricky.
5, the final 5, and if you're astute to this franchise, you have a good idea of what's going to be included in these final 5, but hey, for your predictions, place them down below. Maybe the ordering may not be what you expect. Who knows? It's quite the mystery. Let's go on to it.
Let's go.
Beam Kirby is easily the most consistent ability in this franchise that I always adore using in every single game that it's in, dating all the way back to its debut in Adventure. Hell, it's the first ability in that game, you can't get much earlier than that. Simply having a nice swinging beam of energy destroy anything within its range is great in many instances, but once again, once this moveset got expanded, and now you can charge the beam, utilize the new command grab, and the mid-air beam blast move, it really hit legendary status for me. It is simple, but very powerful. I know this is higher than many of you would expect, but beam will always hold a special place in my heart. But I mean, duh, of course UFO is going to be the better version of that. What initially began as a super cool beam and laser combo with the ability to fly, the more games UFO would show up in, the more varied the moveset would become, making it constantly joyous to use, only made more special due to how rare it is. In Adventure, it typically was relegated to hidden rooms and only a few stages, it barely shows up in Amazing Mirror and Squeak Squad, and it's locked behind an amiibo or 100% completion in Planet Robobot. That's it. Much like Hammer, it may not be common, but whenever it's here, it's incredible. Who gave this puffball a medical degree?
Doctor.
There is no reason for this to exist, but damn it, I am so happy that it does. Similar to Artist and Circus, Dr. Kirby is another one that practically just encompasses the simple concept of chaos. Throwing pills like your Doc Mario from Smash is the most boring part of this moveset. You can slam people in the face with a noteboard, spray random medicine into the air, and, my favorite part, pull out an entire science kit to come up with a random concoction to do... I don't know, man. It's literally random. There's no telling what the psychopath is coming up with in his lab. If you're planning to be well thought out with your battle strategies, maybe Doctor isn't the one for you. But just the sheer insanity of this all even existing, it is Planet Robobot's pride and joy, and I beg and pray that this gets more time to shine in the future.
Who knows?
Sorry ESP with your sideways cap, Yo-Yo Kirby with the backwards hat wins easily every time. That's the best part of Wheel, and it's the best part of Yo-Yo. But hey, who put a little boo-boo on this guy's cheek? I will kill them. The range of this ability is insane. Like, every move does immense damage to any enemy within like 3 to 4 feet range around you, whether it be your spinning dash move, simply spinning the yo-yo, or doing the super sick upward spin. Oh, it's so cool. The outlandishness of a yo-yo being this ridiculously overpowered should really make Ness and Mike Jones proud, because 1 second you could be going in, spinning plastic and string a-blazing, and the next, you could be taking a casual stroll and walking the dog. And yes, the ability did go up a few points just for that part alone. Arguably the most fun ability the franchise has to offer, but
Not first.
sorry, my bias can't help but shine here for number 1. It only appears in 2
Mirror.
mainline Kirby games, and quite frankly, I don't care.
The better magic.
Mirror is easily my favorite ability that has ever existed, and likely will ever exist. This is the
Fair enough.
perfect combination of usefulness and utility with outright great flashiness. From the swing of your magic wand to the handful of moves where you duplicate yourself, and even the reflecting shield has some extra pizzazz that you don't see in any other moves. Turning an incoming attack into a star and boomeranging it back to the enemy, it's perfect. The best part, all of the moves are also really powerful. There are no crazy movement options that are added to your arsenal, but hey, you have a new sliding run animation that's really cool to look at. There is really nothing I would change with this ability, like not a single thing. The only thing holding Mirror back is its lack of appearances, but it's not about quantity, it's about quality, and you can't get more quality than Mirror. And with that, that is my Kirby ability tier list. Thank you all so much for watching. It felt very cool that my 200th episode just happened to take place in the same year as Kirby's 30th anniversary. You know, may not be the grandest celebration of all time, but still pretty fun to talk about. Never a bad time to talk about the entire franchise. Just remember, if you disagree at all with any of the ability placements on my lists, that's your problem. It's a personal ranking list. I can't help that. That's what opinions are. But one thing we can likely all agree on though is that for the most part, any Kirby ability is good fun no matter how you spin it.
Everyone's got their favorites.
Which does kind of negate the entire idea of a ranking video, but whatever. It's too late now. On to 200 more episodes of me.
You think he's looking at the eyes and he's like, oh, man, doing much more. When do you think I'll ever stop? I just don't know why, but it's kind of funny if you think of it like that, you know? Anyway, so there's Antdude for you guys. Honestly, I don't know, like you said, it's his list, but some of those I barely had a chance to work with, but it's kind of fun to watch, I'll give him that. So for now, that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, like, subscribe for more. I'll see you guys around. Adios.